Hello, and welcome to Worldbuilding Wednesday. Don't accidentally mess up our thing there. Hopefully it's still working. Okay, so let's get down to business. As always, I am your host, Casimir Basilius, Imperial Lord, yada yada. Here we go. So, we will be, of course, world building. Assuming, well, hopefully we'll get more done. Actual, well, we have two things theoretically we want to get done. One of those things is, of course, the two things are working on the map and, well, three. There are three things. Working on the map, which, well, it'd be nice to get more of it done. Working on the new mission, where to randomly generate a mission. And three, to work on actual just bits of lore and so forth, work on the city and lore paragraphs and the like. So, hopefully we'll get to that. Here we are. So, we have a few new updates, of course. Not word updates, more so, like system update. Well, not really. Sort of. I mean, yes, we technically had a system update. I'm not sure I ever talked about that. I made a post about it, but I don't think I ever talked about it. Our nation system had some problems in determining nation stats. Of course, organizations could just buy stats, but we didn't really have a way for nations to do it. And I had a lot of problems with setting it up, but thanks to the help from some friends, I was able to get it prepared. And then there's also, well, no, that's the main update. Let's see. Less rules-wise, more just efficiency-wise, there's also an update, which you will see very shortly, because it's part of working on City Map. Assuming I can find the right section here. So, I've come across a little problem when working on city maps. As we've been over before, I like making sure the maps are accurate to each other. That's number one. Number two, not in order of importance, just numbering them for some reason. I prefer having, when I have these, as I've been over before, I like making sure each one's different. If it's going to be an actual, like, display, I like having them each different if it's a display. Also, as you might be able to tell, each one of the objects is an individual object. Each road is individual, and each object is individual. This takes time to set up. If you paste it wrong, it messes it up, and it causes other issues. It basically takes memory as you... Is it even visible? No, I'm actually blocking it. Anyway, in the bottom right, Map Tools takes memory. Placing individual objects takes a lot of memory depending on the size and all sorts of different things. So, solving both those problems is all useful new tokens. You know? They're less accurate, more vague, but they help with world mapping and mapping unimportant parts of the city. Do we really need to place individual buildings, say over here, if we're not going to go over there? Are we going to take up that memory and spend so much time building things here? When we can go with the thing that we bring up often from Traveler, which is map only is really necessary, and we can just make sure it's on the right layer, of course. Do so. Basically, I'll get to it in 1 second. We have a bunch of new tokens that basically indicate sort of types of structures in areas. For instance, this being blue and small indicates that this is a forgot the word for it, commercial. This is a commercial structure. While a green one would be a residential, and a yellow one being a industrial. For instance, let's grab a 2-block heavy industrial. There are different scales. I'll even show that off. So, we have our base tokens in case we need to do something individually. That's industrial storage, by the way. But it's good enough to represent my point. We have base tokens. We can then drop in, say, where's the single empty block? Here we are. As such, technically, if we're doing this accurately, we go colossal, gargantuan, and voila. Arrange, send to back. Perfect. So you have your individual, you have your blank roadways. I suppose we should move this slightly. We got our individual ones, our blank roadways. Not all of them have backgrounds, which is why we have the empty roadway. But then we have our background ones. This is basically this as one block. And then lastly, because some buildings, as you might have noticed, are quad block, we also have quad block variants. Like so. These ones, of course, don't size correctly if you don't, like, measure them. Anyway, simple as that. We have a quad block industry, heavy industry, quad block, heavy industry, light block, and basically, you know, like light industry, medium industry, and heavy industry. Basically allowing us to do, same with residential and commercial, of course. Basically allowing us to quite rapidly make a area without having to worry too much. For instance, we know we wanted this to be a sort of industrial sector. So instead of having to place multiple tokens that take up a lot of memory space and to arrange them and be like, so we can't place 2 of the same one next to each other. I mean, we can, but we don't want to place like a row of 3 of the same one. We can just be like, okay, it's vague enough that it's just a representation. Bam. Heavy industry. and basically build out an entire city in very little time and be able to just glance at it. Of course, you might have to zoom in a little bit because, even zooming out is like, what do you, these are industry, but what kind? You have to zoom in. Same with these, I suppose, but like, at least you can look in yellow, large, that is heavy industry. Blue, picture looks a little bit small, so you might have to zoom in a bit. Blue, small square, that's light commercial and so forth. You know? Anyway, so we'll be using that for our unimportant parts of the map, of course. If we ever like go to an area and want a specific map, we can obviously, of course, remove the thing. We know it's industry, so we just basically place a roadblock, a block of roads, not a, and then, or individual roads, however you want to do it, to get it more accurate. And then you just fill it in with this kind of thing if you want it to be accurate, if it's like an important area, etc. So that's the new, more streamlined version of city mapping. It's, admittedly, it's a bit less detail in a sense, like, of course, it's not like you don't have the nice looking images, but it technically provides a bit more information. A little bit more information. A little bit less in some areas, a little bit more in some areas. It takes less space, it's quicker to do, etc. When I say a bit more information, so a tall tower like this could be residential, could be commercial, we don't know. These allow us to know the difference if it's to a degree, but remove some details to a degree. One of the other nice things about it, however, a really nice thing about these new tokens is you don't need to use the ones with built-in roads. We could literally just go like this. This is a heavy commercial structure. So it's hard to see up here, but this little blue dot, zoom in and be like, okay, this structure is heavy commercial. Theoretically, we could always open the thing that you can't see. It's not like I don't want you to be able to see it. It'd be fine if you could. It's just the way we capture the picture makes it so it doesn't work, But basically, I opened this little sub window and I can type. Assuming I can spell, that's the hard part. So we'd have to go in, type it out, and then if we ever click on it, in the bottom left, you can see it's visible to me. I'm not sure how large it would be on your screen, but it says heavy commercial on that. So we could do that, or we could just place the heavy commercial token, save that for more details. There's lots of ways we could go about it, but this allows us to not have to click on it and then read. I don't know. It's just, it provides options, The good thing about this new thing is it provides options. Anyway, it also lets us build cities quickly. So that's one of the things we will be doing today, using our new system to build the city quickly. Of course, like I said, we will still in future make these fancy advanced maps, but for areas that are necessary to both save space and because it takes so much more time to work on them for places we might not even go, So that's one of the things we will be working on today. We are expanding our token roster. That's not what we're going to be doing here, but I'm constantly expanding the road roster, token roster, all that stuff with these new things. Because these new things are custom made. We just make them rather easily. It's just pixel art, Takes a bit of time, but they are based on, loosely, anyway, based on the traveler tokens. Here we are. There's one right there. Town, that's a traveler town token. And it doesn't really help for the scale we work at, so kind of based on the old traveler token. Of course, the traveler tokens weren't. They're custom made-ish. Somebody made the traveler tokens based on the pictures. Traveler has pictures, and basically they're in this big pack. We, of course, made them into little spheres, put the pictures on spheres, and then we have our custom ones for city building. But yeah, they're loosely based on those traveler ones. Here we are. So, CityWorks, one of the things we're going to do, little paragraphs of detail. That's second, and as stated before, the third is we're going to generate a mission. I suppose we should generate a few missions first. It just seems like the important thing to do for, Solo Sunday. I'm a bit, how do I put it? My brain is scattered between those three things. I want to do all three of the things at once, So, we'll do a little bit of map working while I consider some things, I suppose, just because it's easier. And because we have it open and we're talking about it. I mean, if we were talking about it, it's best we actually do a little bit of it, So, this will be simple enough. We just need that, that, and that. These ones are super easy. They're just literally size colossal. These ones are a bit more difficult because the size goes up to colossal. It doesn't go larger. So we have to individually scale them, unfortunately. Of course, once we do it once, we can always just copy-paste once we get it done once. So, we know that this is industrial. So we're just going to place some random scattering of these. We don't want it to be too sensical, but not too chaotic. Unfortunately, we have to do a little bit of editing, layer-wise. So we have a row of light industry, some more medium industry. Let's throw another heavy industry right here. Let's see. Some small, oh no, actually move that up one. There, that's accurate now. 2 small heavy industry blocks. We actually, well, almost wrong type. What I want to do is grab the quad block empty. We will have to scale this one. So give me a second. Once we scale this, there we are. Put this here as a template. Copy, paste. Free size this. Put that in the middle. Like I said before, I don't have background single unit ones for everything. I mean, I suppose I could make them. It's not like it's exceptionally difficult. It just takes some time. And there's over 50 tokens. So it would take a bit. There we are. A sort of, what do you call it? Storage area here. And let's do something a little crazy. I say crazy, it's not exceptionally crazy, we're placing tokens on a block, Nope, quad, that's quad, we don't want quad. Luckily, I think we have a single over here, so we'll just copy that instead of looking for the individual one. And there, we'll have two light commercials here. We can, of course, if we wanted, not have roads by just using the standard tokens, and there's lots of options. We even have shapes available. We're not using them here today. Well, we might. But when I say shapes, I mean like they're a bit more displeasing to the eye to work with in some cases. This is why, but I'll show and explain. So, here we are. There. That is the proper scale. I know, if you're thinking it wasn't to the bottom, it's because these are a space apart and they shouldn't be. Well, if you're actually, doing the math. These are less visually pleasing because you have two options. For this is nicer looking from a road perspective to have some variance in roads, like so. Like you have a sort of variance in your road. However, we are limited in choice of how we use this. By that, I mean, we can go like this, I suppose. We can go like, I mean, you see it's not going to fit. So we can place a few in there. Or the other thing we could do is something along the lines of that, which is not as visually pleasing as the others, but it does get the point across. So those are like the options. I haven't really decided what to go with for these, but I liked the idea of options in the shape of roads. I'm not sure how to actually do the interior, but it is an option, it just provides those. Anyway. It allows us to do little fancy things. And that's not our only shape, of course. We have a right variant, an up variant, and a left variant, because tokens get a bit weird if you turn them. Like this one turns fine, but if I try to scale anything, it gets off, and I like having different, accurate ones for each, I suppose. But we have all sorts of shapes available. We have each different form of that. We have a double bracket. Like so. We have half a plus. Those ones are quarter pluses or Ls. We also have half pluses. Like so. Of course, in every direction. And just, different options for working with. Of course, there's ones that are just too wide, ones that are too long. Just options, So, those are what we are going to be working with to make our city map. Unless there's important areas, then of course, we'll, as stated, if there's something important, we do this kind of mapping. If there's something we just need to display city districts, we do this kind of mapping, just so we know city district type far better than... Let me put it this way. These are new, but I've made a full map of these. So one thing that's slightly more difficult to tell from up here is what this is. It just looks at this distance just relatively slightly hard to tell. While looking at these, even from this distance, we can look and see and go, okay, industry area, commercial, without having to be like, what is this? I suppose we'd have to go to token layer, click, and either read what it says in the bottom right, or we'd have to zoom in and be like, okay, or it's easier to tell with these from up above. So, over here, I kind of want not a light industry next to like the houses, but not super large, not one big block. Like, I want this over here. 4 small light industries right next to the building. Over here, we'll have a small, medium commercial. I suppose the correct term would be single, medium commercial. Because, I mean, it's a single block as opposed to the quad block. No, I wanted medium, not light. There's single block and quad block, light, medium, heavy. You want medium commercial. Of course, each one of these represents something, by the way. We don't place different ones just for the sake of it. They do have meaning. I'd have to bring open my chart. I know sort of off the top of my head, but I like being accurate on my detail. I'll go off the top of my head this time. So, light commercial is very much this. Little shops, sort of a very light series of shops. Some open area, not a single whole thing. Basically, a series of shops is a light commercial. Medium commercial, if I recall correctly, is sort of like this, but a bit heavier. It's multiple stories, probably. It's more an office block, like a small, not office block, office park. A small office park or a multi-level one of these, sort of like a very light mall. Medium commercial is a more dense office park or more dense mall. While the heavy is a full-on commercial tower. Residential, light residential is your average housing. Medium residential represents multi-level housing, not like individual people's houses, but there was terminology for it. This is why I wanted to open the file, because I don't remember the terminology off the top of my head. 1 second while the file loads. Here's our file. So, the correct term is which one were we talking about? Here we are. Multiplex housing, 3 to 5 story multiplex housing, while heavy is high-rise housing and skyscrapers, basically. Arcology skyscrapers is your heavy. For commercial, it was, single shops, office parks, and multi-story shopping mall. And then heavy is office towers and shopping towers. While light industry, small factories, sort of the same-ish as you see here, except these would be more industrial buildings than commercial buildings, but not heavy like this. And then you have your medium industry, which is more medium industry is more like this, but we don't actually have tokens of this variety that represent medium commercial, not medium commercial, medium industrial, honestly. So light industrial is just buildings. Industrial buildings, they're producing things in them, but they would look very much like stores. They'd look very much like stores, but less windows. And, I mean, they just look like stores with less windows and no signs, really. Maybe a name sign every so often of the industry, but it's not like a place you shop, but it's that kind of building. While medium is the same as sort of like that, except more sort of less like a less like a full-on scrapyard, but that kind of aesthetic. A bit, some chimneys, some actual machinery outside, a bit heavier. You know, a couple of stories maybe. Several, yeah, you know, like same as sort of like as I explained, basically the multiplex housing of industry. Maybe some smokestacks, sort of medium, while heavy is more so like these, and or full-on towers industrialized is more heavy industry. We of course have other things I didn't display or talk about yet, which is, you know, like military, government, parking. We have all sorts of different options. Like I said, we have like over 50 of them, so we have options. We have bus stops, metro lines, train lines, just all sorts of options to use when making these. And I'm considering working on making them into a pack. I mean, I don't know. People might want them or might not. Doesn't really matter. Making them available to people, theoretically, at some point. When I get them done, I'm still perfecting them, but, you know. I mean, they're not the best quality, but, I mean, if somebody told me, hey, here's a bunch of tokens, they're not the best quality, but they have a use in this, or you can find other use for them, I'd be like, yes, because token packs, I'm always after token packs. Doesn't matter if it's a token pack, I want it. So, you know, I'm considering once I get them all done, because I'm still working on them, releasing them as a token pack. For free, of course. Just a little token pack for people to use however they want. Because, you know, while they're simple and easy to make, they do take time. And it's not like somebody might be like, okay, so I'd have to draw it all out, figure out how I want it, and then crop each one and, you know. Anyway. So, we're going to work on that. That's what we're doing. We want some medium rise housing, which is another thing we don't really have an easy way to represent. I mean, theoretically, this can represent medium, but it could be a tall, large, like one of those small, like this is a one square in a heavy industrial. This could be a one square heavy residential as opposed to a medium residential. There's no easy way to tell how many like stories it is basically from that. Which is why we have and are going to place this. Background. Make sure it's the right type. Yep. Colossal. Ooh, I had an idea. Ooh, this. No, we already have one here. I think there's my point. There's my point. I can't tell at a glance. I mean, I know what this is because we built this, but this is a train station. But it's not the easiest to tell. So we're not going to place one because we already have one. But I was going to suggest that we could place, before I realized we had one, this. I was going to do something like that, which is a train station. We of course also have a metro station, train line, and metro line, but those aren't for this kind of map. You can use them on this kind of map, but they're not for this kind of map. What I mean by that is, so you see this, that's a train track. We also have this represent train track, but you wouldn't really do this. This is, I mean, you can do what you want, but you know, this is not something we would do because it just makes things confusing. But this exists for a reason. The reason being, this one? Nope, this one. The reason being this map. We could have train lines. We also have shipping lines for water, and we have a subway line. Just so you know, it's not above ground. There we are. Metro line. But we have lots of options like that. One of my favorites is meant for this kind of, not this kind, but the other kind. My favorite, okay, I have two favorites, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I like them all. I made them, but there's some I prefer to others. And one of those is construction. Construction area, which I suppose we can make that a construction area, because why not? And the other one I like, which is not going to be on this map, so we'll place it just for show, but we're not actually placing one of these because it wouldn't work. I mean, I suppose you could. It could go underground. It would just go all the way out. But that is the space elevator. Of course, we can't do the actual scale of a space elevator because, you know, we'd have a pixel. And then even if we had a pixel, it'd still go all the way, you know, like. But a little space elevator. Anyway, an important question is going to be, well, we're really just filling out the area. So let's grab another one of these. When I say filling out the area, I don't mean randomly, of course. Well, you know, semi-randomly, but there is thought behind where we place things. Storage, and then on the other side, we're going to have another just absolutely heavy. Okay, what else do we need? We have support add-ons, municipal, lots of options. What would we know we need? There aren't going to be single houses down here. So the smallest block is going to be these. We can leave parts absolutely just like this, though. We can leave parts unfilled. We are underground. On the surface, you could have empty bits, but you would fill them with landscape or, you know, not just darkness. You'd have background. But here we are underground, so not everything is filled out. Not everything is excavated. But a lot of it is. So, of course, we're going to add more. Let's see. How much more city do we want? Like, of towers and the like is an important question. We could just place some and see how it feels. Yeah, we'll do that. For that, this will take half a second, because I don't think we... Do we have any that we can grab quickly? No. So we'll have to do it by hand. And that is... I say that like it's a process. It really isn't. We're just going to grab that and that. And then just scale them. And there we go. Ready for use. I kind of don't want that here, by the way. We'll do that. There's a reason for that, by the way. We're going to grab mediums and place 2 of those. Like so. Okay, so we have that sort of like so. We're going to have a somewhat government structure over here. This is sort of abandoned. No, we do have abandoned government stuff here. Parking. We need this because we don't have a single variant of parking, unfortunately. Where do we want this? Over here, there's going to be a parking structure. It's not going to be on... Yeah, it'll be next to the train tracks. Why not? So, basically, I assume you're starting to see how this works. There we go. A couple of light and a bunch of medium. Place that there, because why not? Let's go grab that parking. Make a copy of that. Like so. Okay. And we do have a residential sort of section over here. But we do want to make it lightly industrial. Okay. Some light commercial. And some medium residential. There we are. There we are. Very good. Hmm. thinking about how exactly I want it to go. Like so. Like so. And we'll have another tower. So we're going to grab one of these. One of those large towers. Like so. I kind of want a big thing here that they don't fully control. But I'm not sure what options do we have. Something that they don't have full control of, but not residential. Ooh, why not? A large construction site. That seems fun. So, we'll go like that. Like so. I want a medium to be along there. And then here, we want one of these. Two, actually. Sort of cutting into there. And then a few that actually just overlook that. Because I think that's fun. Place 4 mediums. There. And I think we can have... Trying to decide whether I want light or medium commercial here. There's not a lot of houses, so we'll do light commercial. You're not driving to the industrial district for heavy commercial, you know? Oh, sorry, for medium commercial. There just happens to be light commercial there. Because this sort of is the end of the industrial area. Of course, it extends beyond their borders. They don't control all of the factory. So we'll have it sort of go out and beyond. But we also want more of these. Housing. Whoops. I was trying to copy, not paste. But it's fine. We'll use it. There we are. Obviously, the industry growing along the railway. And of course, more residential than anything else. There we are. And yes, that's a lot of people because those aren't single houses. Those are medium houses. But this is a megacity, so oops, that is to be expected. Not accidentally closing the window. I mean, that is to be expected, but I mean, lots of population in a megacity. And less single housing. Let's see. So that should, to a degree, cover, well, the point I'm making about this. Ooh, I know what I want right here. I know what I want right there. It's not going to look nice because of how it's done, but nope. See, this is what I'm talking about. Do we just extend them? But basically, a library. Rather large library. No, no, not in this district. Not in this district. Not a library, but not a factory. So let's go with municipal structure. No, those more public. We'll mix them then. Two of those and one of, where's our government token? There we are. And one government. Okay. What else? I mean, we've made progress, but like you see, hopefully, if you've watched our previous Working on the City streams, you see the difference. You see the difference of how quickly, I mean, debating how much time I spend rambling, getting this done was faster than getting a lot of the other stuff done because it's far simpler and faster. And also, it looks, at least to me, looks easier to see from here. And it looks nice with the, we have an industrial zone. I mean, if you expand it out, it looks real cool because you'll see like seas of sort of like shapes of like green, and there's your yellow industrial, and then your green, and then there's little bits of commercial around and all that. But that's going to be part of our city mapping. So we're going to need more of this. Let's just get some of it done. Of course, we're not going to lower our work on it. We're just going to expand it. There. This should be large, but I want a little bit more industry over here. We'll grab some medium. Sort of like so. We want to grab that. Like so. Grab one of these for a reason. And we'll have some commercial storage. Where is our commercial storage? There we are. I'm thinking we just sort of close that off, that is. We make a second road. This one. But yeah, we just sort of close this off and have them actually as separate sections. You can't really get between them without going down this road. Because, like stated, this is underground, so anything that's closed you would have to have mined through. And we're going to grab this again, by the way. No, yes. Like so. Then we need something here. Large, medium. And that is going to be one of these. I kind of like this sort of being the edge of, like I said, the edge of the underground construction in the area. Like I said, like the top would be likely all filled, but the underground's not going to be entirely filled. There are going to be ways across, though. For instance, we would take this and run the road all the way into the other map. The roadway should run into the other map. Same with this one, and maybe a road over here. This area should be expanded out some more, though. I'm not sure whether we want to actually, like, fill this out, or keep this sort of like, that's literally the end of the construction. I do want more over here, though. I definitely want more over here. But I'm not sure if I want more in this little gap area. I know I want this sort of like that. I kind of want this bit to have a bit more forward, or, south. What's our other map provide us information-wise? That would be zoo. Nope, zoo's the close-up. Then we're looking for base screen? Nope. Underground. No. Retrieval overview. No. Once again, we get back to I should really name my maps. This one, yes. Okay. I messed up on one bit. Let's go back. What? I keep choosing the wrong maps. Here we are. This is to the south, so you want to go like that. Go over to here. That lines up, by the way. We made sure of that last time. If that lines up, that means... Hope we gotta make sure these are on the right layer. That should line up. Almost. Please tell me I didn't mess up. I probably messed up, by the way. I messed up. I messed up. Okay. This is going to be a problem. This is going to be a real problem. My two different maps measurement grids are off. It's not ideal. And no, I can't go back to the other map and move that. If I move the other map, by the way, like down to, it won't line up to its grid, which is why we can't just go and swap that. So, we have options. We have options. They're not ideal. We'll have to think about that another time. I'm not going to mess with that right now. We will, however, finish this line. This line's going to be a lot easier to finish, by the way, because we're actually going to do it the smart way. There we are. We have one going north. We want an area of the city over here. Maybe. We'll figure that out. Of course, like I said, on a surface city of this scale, we would fill out the entire thing. It's just the fact that we're underground that everything's not, structure. This isn't an ecumenopolis. This is a normal megacity. Well, a multi-layered megacity, but a relatively normal multi-layered megacity. Probably housing hundreds of millions. Probably. I'm not sure. I haven't done the math on it. We'd have to do the math to find that out. Anyway, let's do a little bit of our other work. 1 second. Okay. Let's prepare for Solo Sunday. We haven't leveled up, unfortunately. We are like 5, yes, 4 points from leveling up. Unfortunate. So we're not going to level up today. But what we will do is generate some random missions. And then we'll work on lore and working on the map while working on lore. But let's go to the bottom of the sheet, just so we have some space to work with. Let's zoom out a little bit. Make sure there's nothing below. Very good. Okay. Random mission generation. There's many ways to randomly generate a mission. Many ways. We are going to use one of the easier ways. We're going to open the right file, hopefully. Looking for the right section. Let's search it. Here we are. Perfect. Let's make sure we open it in the right way. There we are. We have to open this first. And then we can open the file. And we'll generate a quick mission. A couple of them, because we don't know which one we'll do. Then we'll fill out a bit more detail on the one we're going to do. Okay, step 1. Unfortunately, I do have to have a second file open to do this, so we will be rolling physical dice as opposed to visual dice. Nope. Nearly tossed a dice off the table, luckily didn't. Find. Oh, there we go. Find. We should zoom in. Find what? Item. Mm-hmm. Border. Find item at border. Problem is going to be complication is going to be Red herring. And opposition is a doctor. Okay, now we just copy that. Go over to here. Okay, that's going to be one of our options available. Let's generate another. We'll generate 3 of these. And then we'll pick. Defeat. That doesn't really work. Let's try that again. Driver. I suppose we could have found a way to make it work. The defeat was an inanimate object, so yeah, a little bit hard to defeat an inanimate object, and not even an inanimate object that was reasonable, like it was an unreasonable inanimate object, so it's like, how do you, that's not, but I suppose you could have like found a way to make it make sense, and that's the point of it, but I just decided to re-roll. Defeat driver at airport. Complication. Let's see. Vendetta. Opposition. Madman. Okay. I have ideas, and I kind of like this one because it sounds a lot like a race. Not that we have any driving skill. And by that I mean absolutely zero driving skill, but it still sounds fun. That mission makes me wish I specced into being able to use vehicles better. Okay. Let's generate one more. Move. Organization. Skyscraper. Move organization at skyscraper. Complication. Power struggle. Opposition is shadowy figure. Well, it looks like I know which one we're taking. This seems relatively like we can do it. But to me, I mean, it is going to be randomly generated by the bot for the most part using words and all that. This seems like a mission we could do, but I say this just from the wordage. Don't get me wrong. This out of the three of them, I was going to say it's my least, well, I was going to say I don't like it. That's not true. I don't know what would even happen on it. It's perfectly fine of a mission, but it's my least favorite of the three. This, admittedly, is my favorite of the three, but we can't do it. Well, I mean, we could. We can try. We're free to lose. We are free to lose. But I don't think we're going to win a race anytime soon. I don't think that's going to happen. The bot could give us opportunities to sabotage the enemy, to solve it, to go about all sorts of interesting stuff. Don't get me wrong. I find this one the most interesting. But from a standpoint of I want to get paid and succeed, it seems like it's risky. Like all we got is like right now loose details. We could generate more, figure out more, but this seems like the funnest to me, but the most difficult for our character to complete. Like I'm picturing, here's my picture. We're informed of this one and it's like, hey, there's a race going on at the airport. You need to beat one of the drivers. It says defeat. It doesn't necessarily say defeat in the race. Maybe we have to intimidate a driver and get him to see. We don't know what it is yet. But my point is like, get him to forfeit. But it seems very interesting. But if any driving is involved, we're going to be having a problem. This one seems like it's up our alley. Help an organization move a lot of its stuff, at a skyscraper. Now, when we say move, likely they're moving out of the area because of a power struggle that's going on at their organization. So people or items or something needs to be moved from point A to point B, starting at or ending at a skyscraper. And we're up against a power struggle and a shadowy figure. So I'm thinking some sort of corporate war. Not a large corporate war, but a corporate conflict, you know? So that's also up our alley. It sounds like it pays better than helping some people find an item at the border. Likely not the border between the two places. We intend to stay at the city. We could leave the city. I mean, that's fine. It could be in the city, like at a gang border. Not necessarily this gang, but at a gang border. Or even at the border of the war zone, and they're trying to get something into the city, so you have to head all the way out there. That could be an option. But we don't really want to leave the city, so, you know, it really all depends. And if it's just dealing with gangs, probably not going to pay as well. I mean, there's a doctor. Like I said, we have very vague information. But I don't feel like generating the complex details on each of them. If we wanted, we could. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I had players and it wasn't just me, and I was GMing, or me and a bunch of players were doing this solo, I mean, I say solo, but a bunch of people, but with a bot GMing, I would have us generate more details on these missions. But obviously I wouldn't do it. Well, if we were doing the bot, we'd do it together and it'd be fun because we could all pitch ideas. If I was generating it for players, but like using the bot to help me, I'd do it, you know, without them and then give them the options because it's not like they're using the bot too. But like in this case, like, it's not like we need the details. It's not too important. We just kind of want to get it done because we have limited time here. I say that. I mean, let's be honest. We don't. I mean, our limiting time is coffee and if any Imperial business comes up. But as Imperial Lord, I could always just say, go away, conscripts. And they'll go and try and solve the problems themselves, which is scary. Don't get me wrong. Having conscripts solve problems is not the best. But, you know, it's not like I have any scheduled Imperial meetings. So, you know. Let's see. So I'm guessing between the last two is what I want to do. Something between the last two. See, I'm tied. This seems like it's far easier for us to do. Far easier for us to do. I say easier. Fighting corporate forces isn't easy, but skill-wise, it also seems like it pays the best. This one doesn't pay as well, as far as I can tell. Doesn't pay anywhere near as well, but it sounds very fun. I want to go to a race at an airport. I really, really want to go to a race at an airport. That sounds neat. But also, if, as stated, if any driving is involved on our part, it's over. It's over. We've lost. I mean, there's a chance. But assuming we're to defeat a driver, if they decide to drive and they're skilled at driving because they're a driver, it's over. We have no way of assisting there. Like, it's over. Well, it's not like there's a time limit. We make the rules, don't we? I say the rules, of course we write the system, but I mean like we can just say like we've just generated these and they didn't generate with a time limit. It is reasonable to believe that the race is not happening right this minute. It is reasonable to believe that the organization moves in a while. Let's do them both. Let's do this and then this. Let's do them both. And we're not going to do this one. Probably because, like, we'll roll the dice. And by that I mean, like, if it's still available after a couple of days, more than likely is what it would take to get these two done, then we'll consider it unless any other urgent missions have come up. Eventually, this mission will fade and disappear. As we'll, like I said, we run a living universe. So missions will appear and disappear. Things will happen and so forth. I doubt that this one is going to have much of an effect on the wider galaxy. It's not like failing this mission is going to have much of an effect on the wider galaxy. We're in a minor nation world forgotten by most of the well, not really forgotten, but like unimportant. We're somewhere that is very, very unimportant. So it's really not like, oh no, the fate of anything important is going to happen. These jobs are so small they don't even affect the war that's going on in this world, Like this one seems like the most important, by the way, also. At least there's an organization involved, like seems like the most important, which is why it seems like it pays the most. But like, so we'll do this one and then this one and see what happens from there. Maybe third, but regen missions by then. Maybe it is gone by then. Anyway. And so basically it's a weird feeling as a GM, honestly. Not as a GM in general. I mean, with the bot. I say bot, we've been over this. It's not a real bot, it's a bunch of charts and dice. The feeling is weird because missions with a solo bot, we can add detail. We can. But it's discouraged to a degree. There's a line you walk when using the bot. That line is, how do I put it? There's an amount of information you can generate. There's an amount of information you can't generate. And there's an amount of information you should generate. You can go in completely blind. You can just roll on the chart in-game and see what happens. Like, when I say roll on the chart, I mean you don't just bring up the chart. What I mean is like, GM bot, I've just entered this room. What does the room look like? And then you roll the dice and the bot can say, oh, the room is strangely clean. What does that mean? And then you interpret from there. You can go in with no detail and generate as you go. You can do what we did here. Generate a very loose series of words and then come up with ideas from there with a skeleton, a very loose skeleton. and let the bot take it from there. You could write out a complete, like old school, complete D&D adventure style thing. And then have the bot modify it so it surprises you. You can go into it in literally as much or as little pre-generated detail as you want. For a solo play, there is an amount of detail we don't want to generate. And by that I mean, we want to throw in concepts. We want to interpret ideas, but we want to be surprised. We want things to happen that we don't expect. And by that, so we don't want to say, oh yes, there's this person running it. We could, if we have pre-generated things, we can do that. But we don't want to go, oh yes, there's this man doing it. He's behind it. Here's their plan. Here's the entire thing. They're going to attack with this many troops. Then we'll know everything. What we want to do is provide ourselves with as much information as a player would be provided with, because we're using the bot as the GM. So we want to be provided as much information as the player would be provided. Anything secret, but that's why it's hard. That's why it's hard. Because at most, when I say as much as a player gets, what I mean is the way we run this, we want no more than what a player would know. We'd be fine with less than what a player would know. That's fine. We can generate it as we go. But we don't want more information than a player would have. So, generating the plot behind it, we can, and then have vague ideas, and then the bot could be like yes or no to those vague ideas, but we don't want to get too solid in what information we have, because then we'll know everything. If we know how many forces there are, we won't be surprised whether forces show up more than we thought or none show up for some reason the bot decides. You know, like we want an amount that shocks us. But it is weird, because as a GM, I'm used to writing out, and as a writer, I'm used to writing out detailed plot lines and adventures and characters and possible dialogue trees and campaign ideas, like once they do this, this will happen, and if they don't do that, then this will happen, and here's the like creating scenarios. It's weird because as a GM, I'm used to doing that, and then here it's like, okay, I should not do that. We can literally go in with zero info and generate it as we go, because GMBot is capable of running with us having zero information and giving us information as we go, because it's based on interpretation. So, of course, we can go in with no information and it'll run perfectly fine. We could generate a lot of information and it'll run perfectly fine. The GMBot doesn't care. The GMBot will run no matter what, which is what's so great about it. Like, how do I put this? One of the times when I was first testing the bot, I tested it in a risky way. Sort of. I tested it when I was first using the bot, like first ever. I let it random generate basically the mission. The first everything about it with basically no input from me. It generated a mystery, which sounds like it would be difficult for like a mystery with no information. But because it's run via interpretation, like there were certain things that felt like they were getting prepared by the plot. Like it felt like, yeah, this makes sense. And then a question was asked and the bot was like, no. And it was like, what? But that, no to that? But instead of just being like no to that, well, that breaks everything, it was no to that. Oh, so if it's no to that, then it means that it's because of this reason. And it was just like, I thought I had it down. I thought I'd solved the like, oh, so it's going to be like this. They're doing this because of this. And then it was like a switch. It was like, oh no, they're actually doing it because of this. And it's like, because it's based on interpretation, it's like, okay, yeah, I can make sense of it because, we've interpreted the details like this. So it makes sense that it might have been for this other reason. And like, it was just this big reveal that like, oh, it's going this way. And so like, not having any details on it can like swap things. So it's like you realize, oh, hey, I've been going about this. I mean, it still logically tracks, but I've been going about this wrong. I thought that their motivation was this when it was this, and it makes sense. And like, you can get these twists and turns that it's like, I wasn't expecting this. Like, I believe in that. I got close to solving the thing. Like, once I got the reveal, went back and was like, okay, so I have to use this information, going and planning. And then all of a sudden, because like we dealt with them to a degree, they come back, kick down the door with a kill squad, and it's like, oh shit, like complications arise because of these things, and like you don't know what's going to happen, and like that's fun, you know? Like I could have probably, like how to put it, it wasn't like a strike team came out of the blue. We were dealing with corporations, and like, corporations doing massive scale shady shit. So it's like, yeah, should have probably expected them with their resources as a corporation to do that. Like I could have theoretically predicted that they would have at that point, not necessarily at that point exactly, but I mean, they knew about my character's existence, my character knew about their existence. So, like they knew I just got the details. So it would make sense for them to also previous encounters met people who were like sort of involved in it that weren't like killed or anything, like side involved in it, who might have worked for them. Like, point is, like, it works, And it's those reveals and like things you could theoretically predict. Like, yes, we angered them. They knew of our existence. Several people were shady beforehand. And we're like, yeah, they might be involved in it. And like, I could have predicted, yeah, maybe I should take better defenses. But it did lead to a great shootout in which, the character I was using at the time fired straight like through a thin wall with their rifle, taking down one of the troops, and like good times, like just good stuff. And like, so theoretically, going with like no detail, no idea what's going on, the bot will make it work. Or we can literally go in with this much, or we can go in with a full adventure path and let the bot run it. But like I said, it just feels weird as a GM going like, yeah, that's all we need. This line of dialogue, this not line of dialogue, these like 7 words. If you don't count complication, opposition, not skyscraper, complication, opposition, and at. Like, just feels weird to be like, yeah, we're prepared for the adventure now. With all 7 important words. So, yeah. We could generate more, could generate literally less. I mean, we have what we have, so it's impossible to generate less now, but we could go in with nothing. But this should do. We might work on it a bit. Maybe. We might leave it as it is and go in with such little detail. I do have ideas, though, because, like I said, it's all based on interpretation, so I do have ideas. And we'll type those out, because those are going to be the backbone of our adventure. Faction of a corp with a power struggle. move their assets to a more secure location. And this one, I think we'll go the intimidate route. Of course, if we wanted, we can be like, it's like, that's my thing. It's all optional and or not optional. If we want to be strict, if we want to be very strict, we could roll a dice and be like, is our objective to intimidate the driver? Roll the dice and have the bot give us a yes or a no. Or we could be like, here's 5 options, roll a d5 and see which one of the 5 it is. We could ask the bot, yes, no, is this what it is? Like, we could do that in a lot of ways, but I'm just going to decide these. Intimidate? Intimidate a racing driver? Into losing the race. The driver, however, has a vendetta with a rival. Something about a madman. Not sure what that means yet. I'm thinking the rival is just absolutely insane. I mean, they both are insane. Both the driver and the rival. Probably. So, with that, we literally have more than you would need to work with the bot, you know? And so, I suppose, we move on to our third section, which is the third thing I wanted to do today. Work on actual world building. Which I suppose we'll do as soon as I make some coffee. We're going to go longer than usual. So, I'm going to make some coffee, and then we'll do some actual world building. But quickly, not quickly world build, I mean like, I have an idea over here. Here we are. I kind of like that. I do want to expand this out a bit. That could be wider across there. Oh, work-wise, we are making vast progress. Specifically, as I'm sure you can I've been on about constantly. I'm always working on Galactic Requiem rules and modification and all that, and trying to find things I'm missing and solving problems that exist in the system. And we've solved a big one with the nations, with the way they're calculated. And we're getting to the point in which even the long time large problems are, for the most part, being solved. As such, well, I'm running out of excuses to not work on the very boring formatting part and the slightly more fun adding items and equipment lists and all that part. So that's what I do when I'm not writing. That's what I'm working on. Oh yeah, of course. Also, we've been slightly distracted by our new project of making all these tokens. But yeah, a lot of formatting, which is boring work. But this Sunday, well, it's your Friday, we're going to run this and do the mission, then hopefully get our level up. If we actually do the quest, then basically, it's not guaranteed, but it's almost guaranteed we'll get 4 XP. Every, like completing a very simple task, as long as it's somewhat related to the game, gets you at least 1 XP. Like, we're probably going to be able to get 4. You know, so we're going to level up after next session. But next session we'll be doing those interesting missions, seeing where they lead us, all that. Hmm. So I will be right back. And when I get back, we'll work on law work. I say law, it's not like it's world. I say, I'm saying it's not like it's world law, I'm talking about universal. It's not like it's system or universal law. When I say, I mean like we're world building information on this world and city, you know? Because, well, the world already exists. We've been working on Galactic Requiem forever, so, you know. Okay, I'll be right back. There's our coffee marker. Okay. Okay, so basically, in short, there are lots of different ways to go about world building. We've been over this before. Maybe. I forget whether it's archived or not. The different steps to world building. You don't need everything, but it's possible to have everything, I suppose. Well, not everything, but, you know, most things. Everything important. Details. Small details. Sorry, trying to open the right files on my end. And finish brewing coffee. Which does, it's not technically done yet. So, the different steps and tiers and levels and all that. But I suppose, assuming I don't click the wrong things while trying to open up the right file here. For instance, on a small city scale, we have some information about the gangs and how they run. On the world scale, we have very little that we can expand a bit upon. Assuming we can find the right data. It's not this world. Not that. It should be one of these. No? Really? Unfortunately, I don't have an easy way to search. This is a rural world with a major conflict between planetary governments. It is disunified. One thing I really want is... Wrong one? Nope, this is the right one. We never actually did it. Look, sometimes I forget. I work on a lot of maps for a lot of campaigns. It's not that one. And is this? No? Yes, sort of. We have a map. I know we have a map. It is this one and this one. There we are. Here we have a local map of where we are right now. Sort of. I say local. 100 kilometers is the launch hex. The subhex is 10 kilometers. So that means this is 1,000. And that this is not. $1,110 and 1. Okay. So what we need is to actually decide, finally, for once, what scale of world we're working with. We can work with any scale, honestly, but we are a moon, so we kind of probably want to be size 3. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to be a size 3 world. And we're just going to work with that. Let's just make sure, one more time, in our notes, That is accurate. By hopefully finding our world data. Yep, found the world data. Here we are. Object 7, Moon 3, colonize rural world. Object 7, Moon 3. So yes, will be a size 3 world. So, we'll copy this. Nope, this works. We'll do it on this map. It's not ideal, but it's close enough to grid. Yep, it's close enough to grid. Okay, so let's make a world map. There we are. We could, by the way, generate heavy detail about the percentage water, terrain, pretty much anything. We could generate heavy detail on it all. Or we could choose not to. We're not going to use hexes. We have to use... Do we, though? Object layer. Hexes look nicer, but they make certain parts of calculating things annoying. This looks less nice, but makes it easier-ish, sort of, technically. Especially if you go like that. I mean, we could draw, I suppose. It's one problem with doing it this way. Come on. I hate these grids sometimes. Where's our ice? Not the best looking, I'll admit. There are better ways to do this. That means that has to be there. Are there any others like that? That has to be there, that has to be there. Make these smaller. There's a reason for that, by the way. Because these are edges. So I kind of need to know that these connect to each other and that that's where the triangle goes, because travel across is, this counts as one hex, basically. If I have both large, I might think it's 2 hexes, but this is actually 1 hex sharing 2 things. Which is why we make them a bit smaller. And we don't know whether that's going to be water yet, so that's it's just technically the same with all these, so all except the top one, honestly, so make all those a little bit smaller so we know that they are split. Oh, we also need bottom ones. Gonna do something fun down here, however. And that is... This one is technically full on water. That's just an ice field, technically. There. Meaning the ice field goes there too. Frozen lands goes there. Was there another? Was that the one I'm looking for? There we are. Bottom ones have to be the same. Okay. Like so. Nope, that's got to be these. Because that will be ocean, so that's ocean. That is frozen, so this has to be frozen. And that's going to be ice field. But normal size. That's going to be normal land. Hmm. It's hard to tell, but this is a continent right here. Basically, sort of like so. Right? That's not a rhetorical question. I mean, that is a rhetorical question. This is a continent. And then over here, we have another one that connects over to here. There's a little bit of water separating this. I mean, technically, this one doesn't separate this because these ones are sort of connected by an upper passage here. You could travel from there to there, and there to there. But that's separated from this one by water. Technically, if you're feeling like you want to freeze to death, I suppose. You could, I suppose, walk through here. Once you, I mean, you don't need to like go all the way. Like, just go like this and get up into this land from the south, I suppose. But that basically, roughly, gives us an idea of the land and ocean locations on this world. Even though it's not the prettiest, of course, we could have a version of this that's not a token, of course. I could pull this out and then fill in the things or draw it fancily or so forth, but we're not going to bother with that right now. We have what we need, and that is an idea of this place. We're also going to mark where we are with a token. Let's go to our other map. That would be this one. Grab that. Every one of these squares, by the way, well, hexes, is... Oh, nearly forgot my coffee. Every one of those hexes is 1,000 kilometers. So it's not like you're... It's a lot of space. Okay, change to token, token size. There. I really should have done this on the other map. It would have been so much easier. By other map, by the way, I mean, we can try. There's generally a reason I don't do it on this map. It's because this already has stuff on it, but we could go like this. We would need to do a little bit of preparation here. That's good enough. Mm-hmm. Nope. Hmm. Now, let's go back over to... Yeah. This probably will break everything, because we didn't do it from start. So it's probably not going to work. But it does work better on this, technically speaking. Yeah, unfortunate. It's not going to work. Normally it works better on this, for the reason that you can manually place them and the like. But unfortunately, this time, we're stuck not doing that. So, oh, by the way, the other reason I prefer this method is because of this. So the other one you saw, well, I'll show you. This is why this is the better version. It has its own problems because of measurement. Measurements are off slightly, and you have to place things manually and they move around because of no grid snap. You can make the mountains so small. Well, on this kind, we have a limit. I mean, we can free size and do that, but Okay, so lore-wise, this works. What we do know is we took an airplane, and we can theoretically have taken it from here or here to get here. We also know that there's basically stuff here, we're here. We'll place an object marker city. Nope, too far. Object marker city. Once more, I'm going to be annoyed because it's not going to be small enough for my liking and it's snapped to grid, so we're going to have to unsnap from the grid. And basically just place a city marker in the square, noting that this is where we are. We're at that city here. It should probably be further south, honestly. Like here, for being technical. Okay. So at least now we have some loose work-in-progress map that we can probably make look better if we cared. I care slightly, but I have no way of doing it here. Live, anyway. And it would be annoying to do. Even not live, it would be very annoying to do. So, we have our location. A world map, so to speak. So, other than that, where's our... Suppose we should... I'm so sorry. I absolutely forgot the sheet was up the entire time. This is what we did. This is what I'm talking about. This is why it looks terrible. I'm so sorry. I literally just realized I had that sheet up. Well, at least I have coffee now. Let me go finish preparing it. My apologies. But yeah, that was very unfortunate on my part. My genuine apologies. I usually don't forget to not block the screen, but I mean, sometimes. But basically, as you can see, each circle is there and it represents 1,000 kilometers, and basically I placed our location on the world. And it doesn't look nice because it's all spheres on hexagons and so forth, and the scaling's slightly off. Like I said, we could fix it in another program. Unfortunately, we can't do it live, and it would take a bit of work. Not really. I mean, I could. It's not even too difficult to do. It's just annoying to do. So, what else is there? This is what I was showing, by the way. This is Size 3 World. I was literally just placing ice caps, water. These ones are smaller because this is areas that you can cross across. And ice fields, ice caps, frozen lands, little city, character token to represent where they are on the world. This was the other thing I was pointing out that was not visible. And that was, on this map, size-wise, due to this being a no-grid map, we can go like that, easily. Make things any scale. While on the other map, we're limited to, without free-sizing it, this scale, which is annoying for placing things. That should cover everything that was not visible. So, um, hmm. Oh, the area I was saying that you'd cross, like there. Not through there, but these are technically the same square. Ocean blocking it from here. You can technically go around under, I suppose, if you want to go over the ice and all that. Another continent here. Since this is the edge, it does go over to here. Because planets be like that. Let's see. Oh, one of the neat things, I mean, we can't do this because it's digital, but theoretically, if you didn't use circles like me, you could have each thing colored correctly without the circles and cut off at the line, and then you could print it out and make a big old hexagonal world. Basically, you can fold it. These are neat because they're foldable, and you could fold it into a sort of almost sphere. I mean, obviously the sides are going to be flat, but, you know. Anyway, we at least now have a loose world map to work with when we're world building, so we can say where things are. For instance, world build wise, this upper area is going to be the, they might even be all the way over here, but this upper area is the country that they are at war with, and likely down here is the country that we're working with. And it cuts off like right across through here, probably. This might be its own country. This one, basically up here, this one, and this one. Or maybe it's this one, and then there's this one, which is all of this. That's something we'll have to decide. And whether this is part of one of the two, and all that. Let's try and actually do some world building, though. Let's go to the bottom, get some spare space. Above the missions, but below everything else. Oh yes, the thing I was talking about, scale. Scale, so world building can be done at many scales, all the way down to, you know, details about a shop, which ties into greater world building, of course, like because, you know, world building, the way a society works, connects to likely what the shops in that society are going to be like. But all the way up and down, you can world build. And in this case, we're working mostly on a city, but the world's relevant to that because what happens in the world likely affects the city. This is a Terran world. We are in the Terran nations, which has its own law. Actually has a lot of law. It has both a lot and a little. The Terran nations are not unified. There's lots of different worlds in the Terran nations that go about their own things with their own business. This world is one of those lesser important worlds. They don't have a lot of sway or political power or control. In fact, they have to deal with other nations. One thing we can do about that is, assuming I open the right file, assuming I find the right section, here we are. Six, seven. Okay, good, we're fine. I was worried that this was for the system we're in. It's not. I know what you're thinking. Probably, maybe. I mean, you might look at this and be like, oh, of course, this system doesn't have 2 stars or something. Maybe it does, I don't know. But thanks to the galactic coordinates system, which may seem like a literal random string of gibberish to anybody not from Galactic Requiem, but for people who live here in our universe, this makes sense. Sector South 308, West 253. I know, because I live here. Not at these coordinates. Not at either of these coordinates, but, in this galaxy. That South 308 is nowhere near the Terran nations. That's the deep frontier. In fact, I'm pretty sure this system is near Sacred Grove. I'm pretty sure it's in the Sacred Grove sector. I could be wrong about that because Sacred Grove is the deep frontier. Therefore, I'm not as familiar with its coordinates. But I'm 90% sure these are the Sacred Grove coordinates, or at least down there in the deep frontier near there, because Sacred Grove is about 300 sectors south and about 200 sectors west. Hence, as we're in the Terran nations, which are in civilized space and generally to the galactic right of the map of civilized space, that we are not west, nor are we south 300. And these sub-numbers are the location in the subsector. But basically, that's how, looking at this, I know it's not where we are. That's been your lesson on galactic coordinates. Galactic coordinates, by the way, are almost always measured. Okay, so galactic coordinates are two numbers based on the distance and location, north and south, east and west, of the Council capital world. Subsector locations are always measured left to right, up and down. So from left to right, and then down, from the top downward. So, subsector 6 to the right, down 7. Sector location 9 to the right, down 4. These subsector goes from 1 to 10. These go the size of the galaxy. How many sectors the galaxy is, I don't know that off the top of my head. It's a lot. These subsector 1 to 10. Both coordinates can go to 10 and go as low as 1. Subsector location, both of these numbers go to 15. As they're, well, from 1 to 15. Sector can be 0. It can be 0, in which case it's just north or south. Or if it's 0, 0, it is the capital subsector, or the capital sector, my apologies. There are systems to get the location in anything, but in all maps, in basically all galactic maps, measurement is done on every scale. I say every scale, we'll explain in just a second. Basically, if we're on a map like this, and you want to read coordinates, and there's some coordinates listed in our guidebook for a location or where a thing is, it would list the map. To get the map location, by the way, to get the map location, there's more steps, but we'll get there. Here, it's measured the same as galactic coordinates. There's two ways to measure it. You can measure it by the full map, or you can measure it by the subgrid. But for this, we'll measure it full map because it's a full map. So, if I've done this right, perfect, I did 0, 0. No, it should be 1, shouldn't it? So I did mess it up. But basically, what it would be listed as is how many right it is. So 330 divided by 5, because this is in 5-foot increments. So, actually it's in 50-foot, but we have it set to measure in 5, and then we just times by 10. But it should be like 66. Yep, 66. So if the coordinates were this far, it would be 66. And if it were here, it'd be 66, 66. If it was here, it'd be 66 and then less, and so forth, to get coordinates on any map. To find the coordinates of the map, let's say you're going from galaxy inward. You can get your sector, easy, subsector, sector, subsector, subsector location, and then we move to standard astronomical mapping. Which object of orbit, which orbital object? So star 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Not measured like that, but it's, I believe, core orbital 1, 2, 3, 4, or is it ABC? I'd have to double check. But for instance, your Earth, it's the first, there's only one orbital, one core orbital. So Earth is 3. It is orbital object 3, as it is the third object in orbit of your star. The moon would be 3A or 3-1, as it is the only orbital object, well, of importance around your planet. Of course, I mean, it depends on your specifics if you want to count debris as moons, like, well, satellites, but it's not really a moon, and we wouldn't count it because it's so... Anyway. But basically, like so. And then on the planet, it's a bit harder to generate, and I can't do it off the top of my head. I'd have to bring up my chart. But there's a way to get coordinates of which world square. Then once you get the world square, you can obviously get what coordinates to which square on the world square, and then which subsquare, all the way till you get down to normal maps, and then from normal maps, that's how you get the coordinates of what we mentioned on getting the coordinates of a normal map. And voila. Oh, by the way, just of note, these, where is it? These, like if you only had to get the character scale, they are measured, assuming I can ever pick the right map. This is character scale, but this isn't what we're looking for. This, by the way, is 500 meters. So if you ever want to know how to get there, like, if you're wondering, how do you get 500 meters from a square that's, well, a kilometer? Well, it's done the exact same. There would be 4 500-meter maps, or 1, sometimes, depending on whether we want a big map, 1 1-kilometer map. If it's a 1-kilometer map, voila, it's literally whichever one of these is. So 3, 3, 3, 3 on this map would be that sub-map. If it was a 500, well, because it is a 500 kilometer, here's what you would do. Well, 500 meter, my apologies. 1, 2, 1, 2. So it would be 2. It'd be 2, 1. Because it's the rightmost top square. So 1, 2, 1. And that's how you get sub-coordinates of basically any location in the galaxy. It gets a bit more complicated if you're using asteroid clusters or station clusters. But for those, what you basically do is you just measure the... Basically, you start at 0, honestly. You start at 0 of a line out from the star, basically. I'll show that. I mean, we're already rambling about it. We might as well show it. Do we have a system map? We might not have a system map, so I might not be able to show it. Nope, yep, we do. Here we are. Okay. On a system map, I mean, we don't make actual orbits. We sometimes can if we care. But in short, That's what this top weird line is for, by the way. This is for actual orbits and location in system. If you're insane and like suffering, then you can do system placement. But if you are sane, what you do, well, what we would do is we would place basically. I don't have a planet off just sitting there, but you'd place them along here. Not 2 squares, but 1 for the most part. These are AUs, by the way, astronomical units. So you'd go outward. There's the planet, but there's probably going to be a moon in orbit, right? So we'd have something above it. If you have an asteroid cluster, each section of the cluster gets its own thing. Each section has its own map. Each section gets its own thing. So you have little bits of asteroids, and you can count how many across it is in the cluster. So is it the first section, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, etc. And then what submap of that to get basically coordinates of anywhere in the galaxy for reference. And it's super useful for storage, because if you want to know where something is in the game, how are you gonna figure it out? You can be like, oh, I think it was this map. What did I name it? Oh, it was this. The galaxy's big. Input the coordinates by looking at a string. You can know exactly where in the galaxy it is, what object it's orbiting, where it is on the planet, just by following the thing all the way down. And it ends at the character scale. Like, we don't go. I mean, you could. You could go all the way down to the character scale, 5 foot by 5 foot. Where is it on there? You could do that, I guess. We don't, but you could. I left my car at this coordinates in this grid, in this grid, in this grid, etc., 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 all the way up till you get to the galaxy scale. Then you'll be like, here's my extremely long, it wouldn't be too long, honestly, but here's my rather long string of letters that leads to, and numbers that leads to exactly where in the universe, exactly what 5 foot square I put this item in. You know? You could. But that's just one thing I'm very happy about in this. Because it makes it so easy, and it works in law as a way to measure the thing. Like, instead of having to worry about size of a world, latitude and longitude, orbital rate, everything like that, you can basically, with a map, you don't need to worry about the world or having a map of the world per se. If you have a rough idea of where you are, you can call an artillery strike using standard coordinates. You can call an artillery strike across the galaxy, theoretically, using the standard coordinates. There's not enough range to do that, but theoretically, you could be like, I need artillery fire, and then go all the way up to the bloody galactic scale. And, you know, in the many years it takes your allied fleet to arrive, theoretically, they'll know where to shoot. So, yeah. But it also makes storage very easy and all that. Unfortunately, as you can see, there's this 1 AU per square written out using these. I mean, it works. That's before. That was made before we got an update, by the way. When I was like, you know what, this is annoying to work with. Which it is, by the way, it's relatively annoying to work with those. So, now, we have, this was part of our token update, by the way. All those tokens I showed you, Not all of them are from that kind of map. One square, one AU. The reason I have it a different color, by the way, is just so it stands out, honestly. It's so I know that this is like technical data and stands out. So if I need to see, I can zoom in on it or just theoretically hover over it, but just zoom in on it and be like, okay, so that's the scale. I mean, it is standardized, so it's not like the scale on this kind of map's gonna change. I mean, that's not entirely true. Technically, this is 0.1 AU per square. And yes, we prepared for that. So, yes, that's map scale and all that. This, by the way, is inner system. The reason that the scale's like this and this blue thing basically represents the inner system because there can be multiple objects in an inner system. Theoretically, you can have lots of things close together in the outer system, but measuring distance between worlds and so forth in the inner system just gets a bit annoying. So this is 2.5 AU total. Then beyond that, you just go to 3 AU. 1, 2, 3. See? So, yeah. I find that just having a nice system like that just makes everything so much nicer. Having a little background to work with, be like, so here's my coordinates, here's how this works, here's the standardized system. I find that very just pleasing to have. So, um, I don't even know how we got here. We were supposed to be talking about world building. Oh yeah, I remember how we got on this tangent. We were talking about how this is not what we're looking for. It gave us a nice excuse to talk about galactic coordinates, but it's not what we're looking for. Here we are. Little higher. Little higher. This is it. So, this is where we are. The reason I wanted to find this is I want to go like this. Object 7, Moon 3. Now, give me a second. I need to open my big book of information. Nope, we're looking for the generator book. I really ought to move this out of the generator book at some point. I also should actually format a search system into the generator book. Because looking manually is annoying. Here we are. Nope, wrong section. It's a lot of data. We're looking for system tier. Here we are, system tier. System tier. Okay, double check this. A world can bring its system up to where? Assuming this is a standard system, it is likely to have plus 20 in its stats. However, it could theoretically, I believe, achieve plus 40. I know that plus 30 is listed, but I believe a system can technically achieve plus 40. Forgive me, I'm going to do a bit of math. A stat 30 system and or world. Nope, this is system game. Well, a stat 30 system likely has enough. That's actually a good question I didn't math out. A standard world can produce 8 credit units and 4 additional population units to do anything. 8 credit units is enough to upgrade a world to stat 20. 4 times 3 plus 8 is enough to upgrade to stat 30 and have money left over. It is not, however, it is specifically 5 short of being able to upgrade to stat 40 for a world. However, a system at stat 40 probably costs less. So a system at stat 40 costs 150, meaning a system can produce 77 plus 41 times 3. So theoretically, a system can upgrade its stats to stat 40, but a world cannot. Like I said, we upgraded stats for nations recently. Basically, you need 6 to upgrade the stats. You don't need to upgrade the entire system. You need at least 6 worlds fully upgraded to upgrade a system, because you have a capital which uses half its stats and systems which use a tenth of its stats. 100 divided by etc., etc. So basically, you don't need to upgrade every stat, but you can etc., etc. Oh gosh. The math is wrong then, isn't it? No. If, theoretically, every other world's at 20, and you divide by 10, leaves you 2, right? And that's 4 worlds at 2, which is 6. So shouldn't it be 36? Or even 26? Maybe? I'd have to double check my math on that. We're not here for that, though. We're here basically to look here and say, this is a stat 20 world. At least now I know that there's some more work to be done. A stat 20 world is called what? Lower midline. Stat 20 world is lower midline. Cross check. with our file here. Yep, lower midline. So this system, or this world, is lower midline. So its stats are going to be 20 plus 5. Just in case we need to calculate anything on the world. Technically, the world's not unified, but it is likely that every nation on the world uses the same rough calculation. Of course, if we want, there are systems to get more specific numbers, like is it 21 through 29? We can actually get that. Or whether it's higher or lower, we can get things for each stat if we want to go complex. But just for quick calculation, we just want to know that it's lower midline, likely its rolls in the nation scale are going to be 20 plus 5. So we have that data. Unfortunately, we will call it here about. And, well, next time, we're going to actually play the game. This time, we did generate, even though it's not a lot to generate, the mission, or at least an idea for it. We likely should make a map for it at some point. If we need one, we can always make one on the fly. Even though I always refuse to, we could and should make one on the fly. Should probably make one beforehand, but who knows? We have more detail on our underground area. We've created part of there. We're going to need to fill this out. So we got some work done here. We did not get anywhere near enough world building done for my liking. So next time, we'll do some more world building, like actual world building. Writing details of the locations, that kind of thing. I expected to get that done, but we got off on a few tangents, so. At least we got more of the city down. Okay. Thank you all for stopping by. As usual, I've been your host, Casimir Basilius. And, let's see. Next Tuesday, we should have a better news report because our conscripts will have done their work and actually written out a news report and gathered the information on this week's news. Do we have anything planned for Thursday? Oh, I did get one bit of detail wrong. On the end of our news stream, I rambled a bit about what our plans were. I was slightly wrong about one thing. Miscellaneous project are on Thursdays, the second Thursday of the month. While the law is on Tuesday afternoons, it's just our miscellaneous projects are going to be the second, not Tuesday after, every once at the end of the month. Last week of the month is law videos on Tuesdays afternoons, while Thursdays, the second to last Thursday of the month, is, so the third week, not the mid one, is going to be our miscellaneous video. Miscellaneous stuff. Everything else is the same. We might play games on Saturday or Sunday, maybe. Who knows? But those are the plans. We have a few things planned. We're going to read some Galactic Requiem stories. We're going to do some Galactic War breakdowns. Stuff like that. Miscellaneous technical talks about technical aspects. Then, of course, topic rambles. other and other Galactic Requiem match stuff. Just working with other characters and that kind of thing. So those are our plans. And more. Now I am going to go attend to some imperial business and then format things for hours and hours. Yes, it is going to be so fun. Basically making sure that words are right and that spaces are where they should be, and hitting enter 50 times and checking stats between two books to make sure they're the exact same and fixing problems with those. It's going to be so fun. Just absolutely worthy of yeah, it's work. I'd rather attend an imperial meeting than that. I would really rather attend an imperial meeting than deal with formatting files and making sure it's all written out right. But, you know, oh, I have an excuse not to format. I have an excuse not to format. Work on fixing nation stats. Work on fixing nation stats, double check the numbers. Because while the new system works, my chart appears to maybe be wrong. Mostly because, well, the way it works, I was under the assumption, maybe I wasn't, maybe I was, I might have measured it wrong. I know that the math behind it is divide by 10 for every other world, but I might have only divided for the 6 necessary worlds, you know? And if I divided for only the 6 necessary worlds, and every other world has its +2, it's 20 in its stats, which is +2 when divided by 10, then we're off by 8, because 2 times 4. So it'd be off by like 8 points, give or take. I mean, it's a generalization. Let's be honest, it's a generalization. It's not like every system has 10 worlds in it, you know? Some systems have one object, but it's a generalization for ease of empire management. Of course, when it really matters, we will do it right, but for, you know, like mass scale, like it's easier to generalize. So basically, it's you know, it's fine the way it is. We're already generalizing by assuming that the system has enough worlds, you know? But yeah. Anyway, sorry for that additional ramble. Thank you all for stopping by. Um, yeah. Next time, we actually play the game and complete these missions, or at least try to, and have some fun. We'll try and do more world building on World Building Wednesdays. We constantly are trying to do that. Eventually, we'll succeed. Eventually, we'll world build on World Building Wednesday. I mean, someone might consider what we do world building. I personally don't, because it's lacking what I want to do when I say world build. When I say world build, I suppose we'll give a quick example. I mean, sure, technically we talk about the world building, we talk about the law, and we do ramble about the law, the way systems work. But when I say world building, this is what I mean. The insert vehicle name here is a robust tracked transport originating from the name of the faction's territory we're in. Designed originally designed as a foresting vehicle. I believe that's the correct term, foresting. For the blank is a verbose tracked transport originating from the insert northern nation here, originally designed as a foresting vehicle. A transport variant was made for the rugged terrain. Bits like that. Or, you know, of course there's more, but we're out of time. The Blank Corp is a heavy vehicle construction organization, produces a variety of equipment. Many of its lines, however, were converted to military use during the insert name here war in insert date here. After the name war, the corporation continued to supply the government with military variants of their equipment. Basically, details, just bits of information about the world that we can then slap in there and add to the background of the world, little bits of detail for, you know, vehicles, items, factions. Those two specifically would be tied together. Those two we made there. Of course, if we were actually working on it, we'd think about it more and add more detail to each one, maybe even a stat block. But for the world building, we'd add more detail. We'd figure out names, dates, that kind of thing. Dates are easy. Names I have trouble with. The problem with names is there's only so many sounds one can make, you know? And in a galaxy so large, things get repeated. And there's only names that only... yeah, don't really like names. It always annoys me slightly. Both coming up with them and, well, just coming up with them. Because there's only so many. Anyway. Lots of details. We could give details about factions, organizations, like we did with the gangs, noting their territories, how they operate, what their deals are. Basically, even we can just note locations, like, oh, there's a little shop here that sells trinkets and so forth. Like, basically writing stories, little paragraph stories or paragraphs of detail about information and so forth, expanding the world and all that. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do here on World Building Wednesday. Someday we'll get to it. Someday. But basically like that, because that's what I do normally. When I work on lore, that's what I do normally. Of course, there's the lore that players build. There's the lore that we build. There's the lore that happens because of those things. Like this war that we've generated between these two factions right now is part of the lore. By the way, it's a different war than the one that we've listed from there. That one was in the past. But basically, writing out all the little, like, this event is now an event in Galactic Requiem, the war between these two Terran nations. And, whatever happens, like, galaxy-wise, gets put into the lore. But also, there's bits we generate, because, of course, there's always things going on in the galaxy. Factions, people, even just like writing a little short brief about a person's life from the past who was notable. Just all sorts of bits of information that build and add together to a more coherent and whole world with more details. That's what I want to do on World Building Wednesday. Someday we will. Hopefully, next Wednesday, we'll actually do that. Yes. Anyway, thank you for stopping by. My apologies. I'll give my outro again, but then I'll go. As always, I've been your host, Casimir Basilius. Thank you for stopping by.